Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Entrepreneurs podcast. Today I'm speaking with Mr. Jake Voorhees. Jake's an awesome dude. He's been a major contributor to the community, been very active. We've been having a lot of conversations about the events that we're running. He runs a marketing agency like myself, but unlike me, he has been seen on Shark Tank. He has over 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and he has been a TEDx speaker and organizer for years. So just a lot of experience in the personal branding space, and just a lot of areas that honestly I don't have as much expertise in. So really excited to talk with him today and learn more about his experience on Shark Tank, because let's be honest, that's always something really interesting for entrepreneurs. Jake, how you doing today, man?
Thank you, Dave. Happy to be here on the podcast. Really thrilled to be a part of the PTE community. Came onto my radar just a couple months back, and going to your events and seeing what you're curating here in Philadelphia. It's been awesome. I've been a member of the entrepreneurial world here for 3 years, and really feels like there's some cool stuff happening in 2024. So happy to be here and be a part of your community, Dave.
Yeah, it's great. I know, when we get on the radar of guys like yourself who have been much more tapped in the ecosystem, and we've seen each other at like PSL events, and I know that you're also connected potentially with like Founders Institute and just a whole host of other communities that I know we're doing something right, and I've been really appreciative to kind of get your advice on how to kind of guide the community. That being said, I do want to hear about the Shark Tank stuff, because it's just not it's not an experience that we kind of get every day. So I've really not done a lot of research about this and you with respect to this. So I'm going to kind of go with the basics here. Tell me a little bit about, when are we talking? Like, how long ago was this? What was the business? Why did you decide to go on Shark Tank? Give me kind of the story.
Yeah, man. Great 40,000 foot question. So my background, civil engineering, I did that in college and worked in that professionally for almost 10 years. But that entire time I was side hustling other stuff and sort of knew that like there was more out there for me, and went to UD, moved back to Delaware, Philly metro area, almost 5, 6 years ago now. And I joined a startup after leaving my corporate engineering firm, and the founder, Marquivas, was very good at pitch competitions. He had won a small check here, a small check there. And we just made this decision over a 6 to 9 month period to get super aggressive with pitching, and wanted to really be in the business of winning pitch competitions and winning funding that was just about like being a good salesman around your actual startup, whether the actual business, the fundamentals, the tech, the MVP, the community. It was really just the pitch part. And so we just got more and more ambitious and got crazy. And then one day we decided to drive 10 hours to go pitch Shark Tank. And that's kind of how it all started. This was 2019.
Wow, awesome. That's not even really like that long ago. I thought you were going to say this was like 2012 or something. That's great. That this is like an even more recent experience. I
Yep.
would love to be someone who is great at pitches. It's like one of those skills that like usually is connected with money sometimes. What was being pitched? What was this concept?
Yeah, absolutely. So the existing business, and you're right, pitching is such an unbelievable skill. And you throwing these pitch events, I mean, think about like just seeing these people over and over again, is such a good way to get good at it. So the business that we were pitching was a brick and mortar sort of commoditized business where if you break your smartphone, you have two options. If you have, say, an iPhone, you either walk into an Apple store and pay a lot of money, or you walk into one of these businesses that can repair your device for you in an hour or two for a short fee. People see them everywhere. You break iFix, there's a brand every corner. But no national company had did what, for example, Brian Scudamore did for 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and unified all of these businesses. There's about 8,000 in America, and did this universal branding. So what we were pitching on the show was a version of that with a mobile store. Everybody knows the Nerd Now ambulance here in Delaware. I'm actually sitting here in Wilmington right now. And then we had come up with a concept to use the mobile store in conjunction with a scaling plan, which was similar to Amazon Dropbox lockers. So we had prototypes, we had the existing store, we had customers, we had sales, but we didn't really have the model out there in the world working. And so we didn't get a deal, but that was in essence the pitch, if that helps, Dave.
Yeah, no, that's very clear, and I can kind of see how that would be useful in the market. People break their phones and tech all the time, and I had something recently as well, and I went to basically like a you break iFix type of scenario. You gotta shop around, you gotta see what the prices are. There's no 1-800-GOT-JUNK version. From the very little bit of what I understand from Shark Tank is you don't just, immediately kind of get put in front of Mark Cuban. Like there's various levels of like pitching and things like that you kind of have to go through to get vetted. So what was it like? Like, yeah, what was kind of the process like once you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we signed a bunch of NDAs about this, but I've always spoken loosely on shows and podcasts, and as long as we don't give like the brass tacks so that somebody can just reverse engineer the show. So you got it. There's two ways. You can either submit a video and pitch online, which we thought there's no way for us to stand out. So we chose to drive and then we pitched in person to an event. I have photos of the wristband. I think I saved it. We were like number 187. The line wrapped all the way around the building. People were camped out. It was nuts. Yeah. So there was that, the first like actual show up in person. That's what I would suggest is go to an event. There's conferences where there's a Shark Tank team that tours all year and does these pitch sort of partnerships with conferences. So go do that. And then what you want to do is be dynamic and theatrical. You want to stand out in the crowd. We were like smashing phones and like being crazy. And a lot of these guys, they would pitch. You walk into a room, this is the live pitch. You don't pitch a panel of judges. You don't have a private room. There's like fucking mayhem. It's like a flea market of pitching. There was like 6, 7, 8 pitches happening at once. You only got one judge. So if they were confused or missed a detail or didn't resonate, your pitch didn't resonate with them, you're done. So, we're again smashing phones in the room. Our judge wrote down a full page of notes and asked us questions for like 5 minutes. When a lot of people, they were like, yep, thanks, we'll be in touch, next. And you can kind of tell that you failed that first person. So then they made you wait. They like made us bake for 2 weeks. They said, if you don't hear back for 2 weeks, you're out. Like no news is bad news. Dude, they made us soak. Honestly, I remember it was Friday night and it was like the last day. We're like, what did we do wrong? How did we not get a call back after doing so well in person in Kentucky? We drove to University of Louisville the week of the Kentucky Derby to pitch in person. And we get this email like 7 o'clock on a Friday, and it's like, congratulations, almost like they were playing with our heartstrings. Same thing. Okay, you've advanced to the next round. Here's what you got to do. We didn't even read the email. We like celebrated that Friday night, this and that. Marquivas and I dig into it on Sunday, and it's like, here's what you got to do. It felt like sophomore year in engineering where they hit us with a bunch of stuff to make us drop out. And they're like, all right, you got to print off this PDF, all 3 of you that were going to be on the show. It was me, Marquivas, and a guy who had helped Marquivas kick off the company named Jay. All 3 of you got to fill it out in pencil. And then you need to do a 10-minute video and you can't upload it to the internet, put it on a hard drive, and you got to mail these physical applications and this video to Sony production studios in 7 days. And if you don't, you're out. 7 days. And we're like, wait, what? So we pulled an all-nighter that week and did this video, did all these applications. So they made us jump through like two of these rounds of like crazy hoops, right? Pitching in person and then getting through the 1 week of deadlines where I think most people, unless you're serious, you drop out. It's too much work. And then it went quiet for a bit and it sort of changed. Then we got paired with producers. So it was like, oh shit, they really think that we have what it takes to be on the show. The narrative was always like, hey, if you tell anybody, you do anything wrong, you slip up on all these rules, you're out. It was always this very threatening, like you're fucking out. If you do anything wrong, you're out. But then we got paired with these producers, and one of the main questions we get was like, hey, did you guys come up with the pitch? And like 85, 90% of it was us. They helped us dial it in, but they really gave us the freedom to come up with it. So that was fun. And then one day throughout this producer pairing, they were like, hey, can you guys come to California? And we're like, wait, what? And it was all very like, we needed to be along on for their roller coaster and follow their crazy rules, or it was just over. And we followed it. And then all of a sudden, 6 months into this, we were on TV. It was wild.
Wow, yeah, that is kind of a crazy story. You sort of expect that, like, yeah, it's going to be like very organized and things like that, but it feels very sort of like that. They just drop things on you out of nowhere, and it's like, hey, are you okay to drop everything that you're going to do and do this? And because it's Shark Tank and they have a lot of clout and influence, and the opportunity is so big, you're kind of like, well, sure, I'll just do whatever you say, and that's why they know they can kind of do it like that. Thanks for kind of describing, yeah, like the inner experience. I can imagine that must have been a roller coaster ride over the course of like weeks and months of just like, you send things out there, but then you don't know if you're going to hear back, and there's all these different stages and stuff like that. How did you feel that the actual pitch went in front of the Sharks?
Yeah, yeah. And just to drill into something that you just said, the craziest part about it was keeping it it's a secret. Like we couldn't even tell our moms because we were afraid it would leak. And it's like, oh my proud of Nerd It Now with the Shark Tank journey. And it's like, no. So yes, keeping it a secret to all of us. Um, that was the hardest thing. So to answer your question, do I think the experience was positive, and like, what do I think of the experience? What was the
Yeah, your experience in basically also like being in front of the actual sharks is, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, being on TV and everything.
Yeah, the two questions we get the most were they mean to you guys and were you guys nervous? And they really weren't mean to us. I don't know if they treated us differently. I really think most of it's produced. Like in the lab, they make them look like butt heads to each other.
Yeah.
They're realistically mean to each other. That's called shark crosstalk. They want to be mean. That's like the drama of the show. But when they embarrass the actual pitchers, I think they're
A
manufacturing
little
that quite a
more,
bit in the lab.
production, like
Um,
they're splicing stuff together to make it look like.
yeah, because they could have definitely, we like biffed on a question or two. They could have put that in there and they didn't. They made us look like pros, even though we didn't get a deal. They made us look good.
I see.
So yeah, they weren't mean. And then the other question I get about the experience in general is everybody's like, were you nervous to be in front of them? Were you nervous? Were you nervous? And I had like a little bit of on camera training, no like broadcast background or no reason to walk in there and just be like, oh yeah, I remember feeling like I should be nervous, but then like when we're getting like powdered up and like put in the professional, I remember being like, man, I'm not nervous. Like, I don't know if it was because we were so prepared. Like, we barely practiced that day too. We did like one rehearsal that morning. So maybe it was just so dialed in. But yeah, the overall experience was incredible. We had to beg them to get the truck on the show. Being out to California was awesome. It was really incredible to like do the practice. We did a dry rehearsal the day before filming. There was like 50 Shark Tank people in the room. It was unbelievable to like. It felt like we are pitching to like a picnic barbecue. All these like tables in the, makeshift tables. But yeah, the experience was incredible.
Very cool. I love it, man. Well, I mean, entrepreneurism has kind of ups and downs. You guys didn't walk away with a deal, which was too bad. Where did kind of the mood go from there? Like, was that? I mean, I hate, I'm not trying to like make you cry on screen, like Barbara Walters style. So I'm like, was that like crushing, or was it sort of like okay, and then hey, let's go and do what we were doing anyway? Like, how did you guys move on from that?
It wouldn't be the first time I've cried on a podcast before, by the way. I have plenty of YouTube videos where I'm like super vulnerable and transparent with the audience. I love it. I think that's the way to be. So since we were on such a tear winning all these things, we were convinced we were going to get a deal. Like we went in there being like, boom, 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 like get back to Delaware. We walked in there convinced that we were going to get something, right? And so to handle questions for like almost an hour and then to hesitate briefly on one. And I know I didn't give you the anecdote, but they hit us with a question. They kind of steered our pitch into a direction that wasn't exactly what we were doing. And we let them do that. And then it hit us with a question that we couldn't answer and they could tell. And it was like all the air left the room. And then Mark Cuban, after being like, yeah. I'm like, oh man, we're going to get a deal with Mark Cuban. He went out first and then all four of the rest of the Sharks went out. And so, and so we walked out of there like, kind of being speechless for the rest of the day. I mean, I remember Marquivas being very affected by it because again, it would be like being convinced that tomorrow is Christmas Day and then it like didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no. So yeah, I would say for like 2 or 3 days it was pretty devastating. We even had like car trouble coming home, like movie type stuff on the way out. Yeah, we got like stranded in Denver, couldn't pay bills in Denver to like fix the ambulance. It was wild. But then after like maybe 2, 3, certainly 30 days after, it's like, hey, right back to the drawing board. And then it's just like, we got to wait. Even that was the other devastating part. We couldn't talk about this with anybody, even if we had like mentors and business partners who could like console us on this. We couldn't reveal it because if it leaked, then all this effort was wasted and we'd never be broadcasted. Right. So it was a weird thing, but we kept right on moving. And then it didn't matter that we didn't get a deal. Just being on the show is the victory.
Yeah, that's very cool. How long does it take to air after you had done the recording? Like, is it months or?
That's a great question. So we pitched in April or May, and then we were filming by 2 or 3 months after that in the summer. We thought we were going to have to wait a full year until the next spring. And that's when they called us in October and we're like, hey, we got a slot for this fall. Are you guys ready? We're like, no, but yes, you don't want to say, oh no, let's wait till spring. Cause then, your opportunity could be gone. So the whole process was only 6 months and it should have been more like 12.
Nice. I mean, it's still a while to be holding a secret, but it's definitely better to do 6 than 12. And then, when it did go live, was there, hey, you don't get a deal, fine, but was there, did you get some messages, some shout outs, did someone get in touch with you? Like, what was the kind of the fan fall afterward,
Yeah, it's a great question. I really like the specificity within these questions. We had so many mentors and people, everybody knew like you got to market this, do a big watch party, you got to market, at the front end of the release, like hit it, hit it, hit it. But we never really looked at like the long-term impact of it. And that's what I'll communicate to you now. So they said it was going to be about $5 million of marketing. It felt like 500 million. Like, re-airing the episode. Everybody's talking about it. Me and Marquise were wearing the bomber jackets around town, and like everybody knew who we were. It was like kind of crazy, you
Nice.
know. But then what happened, how the residue of it was that we would use it as an ace card in meetings. I still use it as an ace card for myself today, where a meeting will go on and it's like blah blah blah. It's like, oh yeah, did you know? And we blah, blah, blah. It almost didn't matter what we said. And then we're like, did you know about Shark Tank? And they're like, wait, what? And then they're like, yeah, we're in. And like the handshake would just happen. It was like this Nobel Prize, I would call it. That was like our Nobel Prize. And I didn't expect that people would treat it like, oh wow. So it was super helpful. And I would encourage anybody to go for broke with something like a Shark Tank type experience because it was worth it.
That's cool. I love to hear that. So my final question is, so where did the business kind of go? Like, still obviously this, even after a success like Shark Tank, I'm sure there's still like a lot of work that needs to be done, or, there's still questions that were maybe unanswered at that time. So, tell us the end of the story.
Yeah, again love. It's almost like we planned out these sequence
I
of
know, but it's not,
questions.
it's conversational. I'm just like asking questions that like I want to know the answer to.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. But we aired in the end of October 2019, and so just a couple months into that, we are hit with COVID and everything. And what's funny is that everybody knows tech and certain industries, athleisure wear and certain things really, eye makeup, like certain industries really boosted during COVID. One that most people don't talk about is the computer industry. So everybody had to come up with a new Chromebook for their kids at home, new monitors. Everybody had to fortify their home office. So we had just hit Shark Tank in October, and then COVID hits in March, April. And so the whole state of Delaware is looking at Nerd It Now to like solve, these school district wide, statewide computer problems. So instead of rolling out this thing that was going to be a physical kiosk out there in heavily trafficked pedestrian centers, we literally paused what we were pitching on the show and just used all the momentum to be like Delaware's computer champion. And that really worked out. So it cascaded into all these other things that we didn't expect. There's still a whole bunch of kiosks that aren't in the world. Like if you go over to the facility, Marquise has like 10 that aren't out there. So there's still plans. We have some partners that are planning on doing it. You have to have a location to host the actual kiosk, just like an Amazon Dropbox locker. But it's not out there rolling in the way that we thought it would be, because everything changed and the business is a little different. But I still think it can happen. So we'll see.
That's cool, man. Love that. It's a great story. Thanks for kind of, presenting that to us and being like really transparent about, the inner workings and stuff of the show with respect to what you're able to talk about. People that want to get in touch, they want to learn more about what you're up to. I know that maybe, Nerd Now is not exactly your main thing right now, but I don't know actually, but whatever it is, where can people find you?
Yeah, Nerd It Now is a client today. So I was like employee number one back on the show. I wasn't one of the founders of the business, which is why I'm no longer like officially with them. But no, me and Marquise and the founders are super close working with them today. If anybody wants to reach out to me and talk about any sort of pitch stuff, marketing, any sort of presentation things, even just the stuff that Dave and I are up to in this awesome Philadelphia tech entrepreneurship ecosystem, send me an email, hello@jakevoorhees.com. I'm Jake Voorhees everywhere. My YouTube channel is Jake Voorhees, Instagram, my business is jakevoorhees.com. So reach out, send me a message, and I'd love to chat some more.
Cheers,
And you
man.
can just get in the PTE Slack group and DM me. That's the best way, right?
There you go. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Promote the community.